wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of the Piledriver Weekly. My name is Electric Eric Davidson, and this is my co-host, Mr. Ace Larson. We got a good show for you here today. We're going to run down the usual, and we've also decided to go ahead and add Ring of Honor on a weekly basis. So I'm going to start things out with OVW this week. And to start the show off, we have the Coalition backstage, and they're going over some strategy. Not sure exactly what they're up to, but they had like a map out and everything, and they were planning something. Then the first match of the night for OVW is Jesse Goddard's versus Eddie Diamond. Goddard's is basically dominating the match, and then Crimson and Jason Wayne from the Coalition come out. They're just kind of observing things. Then Goddard's gets distracted, and Diamond shows a little bit of offense. Then the entire Coalition hits the ring, jumps Diamond. Goddard's just kind of bails, gets out of dodge. Then Diamond gets power bombed off the top rope, pretty impressive move. And then his maybe not girlfriend Epiphany comes out to check on him, and he's in pretty bad shape. But that was your opening match, kind of a throwaway. Then Ryan Howe, friend of the show, comes out jamming on his guitar. And a lot of people over the years have used the whole rock and roll gimmick. But Ryan's the real deal. Ryan can actually play.
And wrestle.
Yeah, he's not a... Do you remember Van Hammer? Van Hammer used to come out to the ring with a guitar, but it was just a prop. He couldn't even play an A chord. Ryan can actually play
both,
and play very well. He was actually in a regional band that had some success. But he comes out jamming on his guitar, and he's getting ready to face Doug Williams. Williams comes out and calls out Jamin Olivenzia and tells him he will be invoking his rematch clause for the OVW title at Saturday Night Special, and that's going to be on May 11th. Then, just out of nowhere, Williams turns around and just nails Ryan Howe with the microphone. I mean, hits him hard. The mic breaks into several pieces, and I actually talked to Ryan about it afterwards, and he said it really, really hurt. He had a knot on his head and everything. Yeah. It was one of them heavy-duty Shure microphones, and it busted into 6 pieces. I've never seen anything like it. But, Ryan said it actually really hurt pretty bad. So, He beats up Ryan for a few minutes, and then Jamin Olivenzia comes in for the save. So the second match never really got started there. Then we see Tony Gunn backstage asking Randy Royal why he knocked out Cliff Compton and Rockstar Spud last week before the TV title match. And basically Randy's saying he's got to have a shot at the title because the title, if you're the TV champ, you get $1,000 for every time you defend the belt successfully. And he says he's got a bunch of medical bills piled up, whatever. He's got to have that money. So then we see Johnny Spade and James Moose Thomas. They're bickering at each other backstage. GM Michael Hayes, kind of intervenes and said he's sick of it. And he puts the two against each other later tonight on the show. Then we see the Coalition attacking Sam Shaw, and those guys come to the save. But so Randy Royal is supposed to be facing Spud for the TV title. The Coalition comes out and jumps Spud and Randy Royal. And Randy is enraged because they cost him his shot at the belt. He calls out the entire Coalition. And Tony Gunn was out there with him, and somehow this leads to an impromptu tag team match. Randy Royal and Tony Gunn versus Jack Black and Joe Coleman of the Coalition. The Coalition dominates Royal for several minutes. Royal finally gets the hot tag to Gunn. Gunn takes it to him for a minute. But then the rest of the coalition comes out. Coleman wraps some bullets around his fist. And he gets the pin. So the coalition wins. And then they continue to beat up both of those guys, Royal and Gunn. The coalition just... Obviously, this is what they've been planning backstage. And they're just running roughshod over the entire OVW roster that night. Then we see Jay Bradley talking with Spade. Then Taylor is trying to nurse Ryan's wounds backstage. And Bostic comes out of nowhere and just kicks Ryan right in the face, sends him flying out of his chair. It's a pretty impressive kick. And Bostic, jumps on top and just, nails him with some lefts and rights until Taylor stops him. Then we get a match for the women's title. The defending champ, Epiphany, is defending against Trina. And Trina's pretty impressive physical specimen. She's very muscular and athletic. Has the bodybuilder look. And Epiphany is pretty much dominating the match here. And then Eddie Diamond comes out, and he's got his head all bandaged up, and he's half out of it, but he's like trying to root for Epiphany and cheer her on, but he just ends up distracting her, which allows Trina to get the pin and become the new women's champion. So we got a new women's champion in OVW, and after the match, you can tell Epiphany's kind of upset, but then Eddie just collapses, face first on the ground, and she picks him up and carries him to the back. Then the main event, Johnny Spade versus Moose, and they go back and forth for a bit. Moose accidentally takes out the ref. Then out comes Jay Bradley, and he tosses a chair to Spade, but Spade tosses it back to him and does the kick into the chair, and kind of like RVD's move there. And then the coalition hits the ring and attacks Spade and Moose. They take out Spade first, and then they do just violent spike piledriver on Moose.
Oh, shit.
Onto the chair. And they were making it seem like Moose was legit hurt here. But I think it was a work. At first it seemed legit, but I think it was just a work to kind of build drama for that whole thing. But, as the show goes off the air, the coalition stand in the ring, among the carnage. So they really made a statement on that episode. But that does it for OVW. And don't forget, OVW does their TV tapings every Wednesday at the Davis Arena, 4400 Shepherdsville Road. Bell time 7 o'clock. It's only like $5 to get in. Sheet night out for the family. If you can't get to the matches, catch them on WBNA 21, the Ion Network, Saturdays at noon. Or you can watch them anywhere you have access to a computer at ovwrestling.com. Now we're going to move on to Ring of Honor for this week. They are at the Manhattan Center. Always a good place for wrestling. Start the show out. Kevin Steen makes his way out to the ring, and you hear "Thank you, Kevin" chants, from the fans. Then before Kevin can really say anything, Steve Corino comes out, and he basically says it's still Scum's mission to destroy Ring of Honor, and he tells Steen that the plan is still intact here. And Steen says that since Cornette is gone, he thinks Ring of Honor is fine. And, he says he respects Corino, but his only mission is to get another shot at the title here. And
so he's completely done with Scum.
Yeah, and if you had any doubt, after this, what happens here, it's definite. Corino says maybe Scum needs the belt on someone else besides Steen. Steen says he would follow Corino through hell, but he just can't get on board with Matt Hardy. he points out Matt Hardy and calls him a piece of garbage or something like that, and Carino takes a lot of offense to that, and he says, you can't talk about Matt Hardy like that, blah blah blah, and basically says it's time for them to go their separate ways. Steen agrees and says they can do it one of two ways. Either we can, just walk away and not have to deal with each other anymore, or y'all can do what you're about to do, and you're going to regret it. Carino basically says, we can't let you walk out of here, so it's going to be option number 2. And they jump him, and Carino actually refers to Hardy as Jesus here. They end the beatdown with a twist of fate from Hardy. So obviously, Hardy's the new guy for Scum. He's going to be the leader, I guess. Well, Carino's the leader, but
can you buy that though?
Have
you noticed though? Anybody that's not brought up through Ring of Honor through the ranks, it's so hard for them to get over.
Yeah,
especially a WWE guy like Matt Hardy.
Yeah, and the fans were even chanting, "We hate Hardy."
Yeah. And I like Matt Hardy.
I always liked Matt Hardy too. He's had his issues in the last few years, but who hasn't had issues, man? I mean, we've all had issues. I'm not going to hold that against him.
Better worker than Jeff.
Yeah, he's definitely the better all-around wrestler than Jeff. Jeff's great at the high spots, but
that's about it in my opinion.
Matt's definitely the better all-around wrestler. He's kind of let himself go a little bit the last couple of years. Physically, yeah. But no doubt he's he better all-around guy than Jeff. And, I mean, you can't deny Matt's passion for the business. Anyhow, so that's it for Kevin Steen and Scum. Then we get Roderick Strong versus Mike Bennett. Mike Bennett comes out with brutal Bob Evans, but Maria's nowhere to be seen.
Damn.
Not sure what was going on there, but and we have Mike Mondo on commentary with Kevin Kelly.
How was that?
I like Mondo. I find him humorous, but it was a pretty good match. Mondo gets involved, of course, and Roddy gets the win. Then after the match, though, Mondo goes after both guys, basically trying to make a statement here. And so the match was kind of a throwaway. Then we get Jorge Santi in his Ring of Honor debut versus TD Tadarius Thomas. And, this is our first look at Jorge, but, TD, he can go, man. Really impressive. Gets off to a good start here, but it doesn't get too far before Scum comes in and takes out both guys. Jorge takes a mean gore from Rhino. Then, Carino gets on the mic and states once again that, the mission stays the same and they will destroy Ring of Honor. Nigel McGuinness, the GM, comes out and he says basically, Carino's days of running roughshod over Ring of Honor are done. And we have Jay Lethal and Michael Elgin are there to back up Nigel. Nigel basically throws out a challenge saying that Lethal and Elgin will take on any two guys from Scum. And that's going to go down at Border Wars. And if Scum wins, they will get, or I should say Matt Hardy will get a shot at the world title. And Carino also says he wants to be on commentary. So I don't know. I was kind of confused on whether that's going to start next week or if that was another match stipulation. But anyhow, so that's going to take place at Border Wars, which is shaping up to be a pretty good pay-per-view.
Oh, Ring of Honor pay-per-view.
Yeah, but we're probably going to have to watch it like the next day or something because it's on Derby Day. And if you're not from Kentucky, Derby Day probably doesn't mean anything to you, but it's like a religious event here in Kentucky. So we'll probably have to watch the replay on Sunday. Then they do a spot hyping Border Wars, which is Saturday, May 4th, by the way. We take a look back at Jay Briscoe's Ring of Honor title victory and more previews for Border Wars. Then the television main event, we got the television champion Matt Taven defending against ACH, the sometimes partner of Tadarius Thomas, another really high octane kind of guy in the ring. Mm-hmm. And the winner will face Mark Briscoe. They'll have to defend the title at Border Wars against Mark Briscoe. Pretty good match here. Both guys are really athletic. ACH in particular, he had some really, really great high flying and quick moves. Taven gets the win with his modified forward DDT kind of thing. It's a pretty cool move. I'm not sure what he's calling it. He pulled that off after a little distraction from Truth Martini and the Hoopla Hottie, little redhead girl that's been coming out to the ring with him. Pretty fine. But that does it for Ring of Honor. And next, we're going to go to Impact, and I'm going to let Ace kick this one off.
All right, we're going to TNA Impact, April 18th, 2013. We got an AJ Styles recap.
Yep.
A tag team recap with Chavo and Hernandez and Aries and Rude. Then we go to a Brooke and Bully recap. And then we go to a Hardy and Bully last week recap for the championship match. Then we get Hogan apologizing and just freaking out. Jeff Hardy being taken out on the stretcher, and Hogan's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What the fuck's he sorry for? And then we get Devon, Garrett Bischoff, and Briscoe backstage. What's Briscoe's first name?
It's Garrett Bischoff, Wes Briscoe.
Wes Briscoe, yeah. Garrett Bischoff and Wes Briscoe backstage. And they're talking about the big match coming up against Kurt Angle in the handicap match.
Yeah.
Bischoff and Briscoe versus Kurt Angle. Then we go to the first match of the night, which is Bischoff and Briscoe versus Kurt Angle. What do you think?
Nothing to write home about.
A little slow.
Yeah, Angle dominated most of the early going.
We get a tweet during the match that Chris Sabin is coming back.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
Briscoe delivers a low blow, and that kind of shifted the momentum for a minute. But, Angle, I did like the double German suplex. Yeah. That was kind of cool.
And we get a lot of "you can't wrestle" chants towards Bischoff throughout the match. He goes, shut up.
But, he's still young. I'm willing to give him a chance and see how he does. But, he doesn't have the pedigree that Briscoe does.
No, I don't know.
But, both those guys are young. We'll see how they develop.
D'Lo's at ringside.
Yeah, D'Lo.
Throws Bischoff the chain. You know what's coming.
Yeah, nails Angle with the chain. And B&B get the win. That's what I've been calling them, B&B. That's how I put it down in my notes here, so I don't have to write so much. But
Didn't Kennedy come out and cut a promo?
Yeah, he gets on the mic and talks some trash.
I like how his vest says "asshole."
Yeah,
right there for his name. I caught that. I thought that was pretty hilarious. Can't believe they didn't leave that one out.
Yeah, they're not quite as PG as WWE these days. Trying to be a little more edgy, and that could end up working for them. That was about it for that match. Then next, we got the X Division title match.
Kenny King versus Zima Ion versus Petey Williams. Fuck the X-Cam.
Man,
you know what I mean?
It's funny because when it first started, I thought, what is that funny little hat that the referee's wearing? Yeah. And then, they said it's the X-Cam, but it made me think of, do you remember the XFL?
Yeah.
Well, what they call the Sky Cam in NFL now.
Yeah.
They actually ripped that off from the XFL, and it was called the X-Cam. Mm-hmm. And that's what it made me think of. But now the X-Cam is a hat cam worn by the referee for X Division title.
It's like
just a silly gimmick.
Can we let this reality shit go away?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like...
just a silly gimmick there.
It makes the ref look like even more of a goof than he is. He's
like
a big old stupid black hat on the whole time. Petey Williams hits that bad-ass Canadian Destroyer.
Yeah, the Canadian Destroyer. I like Petey a lot, and that's a good finishing move. The match itself was nothing great.
Fast-paced.
Yeah.
It was decent.
It was okay, but, for X Division match, it could have been better.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kenny King pins Zema Ion for the win there.
So Zema Ion's out now, right?
Right, he has to go back to the back of the line. That's how it works.
Then we get a Magnus promo.
Yeah, backstage talking about the TV title match. Then Brooke and Christy Hemme backstage going over the new Knockouts website. I mean, do they really need their own website? And, they trying to sell it like Christy Hemme designed it and shit. Yeah, right. Then Brooke calls over Mickey and Miss Tessmacher, and they're going to be fighting each other for a top contender spot. She wishes them both luck. Then as Mickey walks away, Tessmacher tries to comfort Brooke about the whole Bully Ray thing. As Brooke, she's Brooke Tessmacher, but Miss Tessmacher, just to save confusion. As she's walking away, Brooke Hogan kind of had that funny look on her face, which, to me, I'm still wondering. I still say she's going to turn. She's going to be with Aces and Eights. But we'll just have to wait and see on that. But if I was a betting man, I'd put money on it that Brooke's going to be a member of the Aces and Eights. Or actually, she already is. You just don't know it yet. Then we go to the TV title match.
Which was kind of nixed because it was supposed to be Devon versus Magnus for the TV title.
Right.
Then Aces and Eights attack Magnus. Then Samoa Joe comes and saves the day.
Yeah.
Kind of setting up a little bit later.
Yeah. Doc and Knox, jump Magnus at the top of the ramp. And the match never happens. But, then we see Joe backstage, saying basically he talked to the higher-ups and he's going to get his way, and I guess that means a TV title match later. Basically yells into the camera calling Aces Eights punks and cowards and says they'll see Devon later tonight. Then we take another look back at the whole AJ Styles thing, and more, this is like Sting, when the whole NWO thing first started. It's almost identical.
Yeah. Well, look who's running the show. It's Hogan.
But I do have to say, I'm kind of starting to like AJ in this role a little bit.
I am too. Yeah.
It's starting to grow on me. I'm kind of liking. He's kind of renewed himself, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm getting on board with it a lot more than at first I just kind of scoffed. It's like, come on, I can't buy AJ Styles as this dark loner character.
Yeah.
But I think he's starting to make it work.
I agree.
So then we take a look at Velvet Sky's injury from 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get the Knockouts top contender match.
With ODB as the special guest.
Yes, for the second week in a row, ODB is the referee for the Knockouts.
I mean, Miss Tessmacher and Mickey James, they're both so hot.
Well,
I just
man,
can't. It was a good match. It was a good match.
It was because they can both wrestle.
Yeah. But man, they're just.
And Mickey's always been my favorite, but man, she just.
I love that cowgirl persona.
Man, she just looked incredibly hot in those short jean shorts. My Lord have mercy. I've always had a thing for Mickey James, and I mean, it was a good match, but I had trouble really paying attention to the action because I was too busy checking her out.
Then Tessmacher pulling up her
Yeah,
shorts.
does her own version of the stink face.
Oh my God. One thing TNA's got going for them, they have hotter women than WWE.
Well, and a few of their women can actually wrestle.
Yeah.
You know, they got Gail Kim, she can wrestle. Mickey James can wrestle. Tara can wrestle. Even, you know, the rookie Taryn Terrell has shown some signs of promise.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about the Divas division when we get to Raw. But, yeah, I think, you know, hands down, the Knockouts are by far better in-ring performers than the Divas.
Yeah. Mickey James wins.
Mickey wins. You know, and I was glad to see that. And, you know, she kind of cut a good promo there after the match, too. You know, saying, hey, you know, I've deserved this for a while. I'm tired of being overlooked.
Yeah.
And I think Mickey definitely deserves it. She is a two-time Knockouts champion. But yeah, Mickey gets the win after what looked like a botched sunset flip by Tessmacher there. But yeah, all in all, a decent match. Then we see Styles backstage with Bad Influence in the background. And looks like they may have had a meeting of the minds. We don't know. Then Joseph Park backstage gets jumped by the Aces.
Gets choked out in the bathroom.
Yeah. And I got to give him this. He's good at selling. I hate to say this, but it's fun to watch him get beat up.
Yeah. They turn the shower on him and everything.
Yeah. He's really good at playing that nerd role, which, he played the Monster Abyss, and this is a total polar opposite of that. So, Joseph Park, he's entertaining. Then we get a sneak peek at the Knockouts website, and then the Mickey promo I talked about.
Yeah, James Storm promo.
Yeah, we see Storm backstage getting ready to face AJ. Then a quick look back at the tag titles changing hands last week. Once again, congratulations to Hernandez and Chavo.
Finally.
One of my favorite current teams in the world of wrestling, in any promotion. And then we go to Daniels and Kazarian, also known as Bad Influence. They come out and
cutting a promo in the ring. I thought it was hilarious.
Those two guys are funny, man. They really are.
It's so rare though when you get that mix of funny and talented.
Right.
It's so rare nowadays.
Yeah.
It's either you're funny or talented, but you're not both. These guys, they're both great either way.
And they keep talking about this imaginary Bad Influence movie. And what he say? They're in talks with Morgan Freeman to play Dixie Carter. I about lost it there, man.
Oh my gosh, that was hilarious. Two guys that really have been overlooked.
Yeah,
their whole careers.
Really. And the kind of triangle they got going with. Those two guys, Chavo Hernandez, and then Rude and Aries. Their tag team division at the moment is way hotter than WWE could even think about.
Yeah. Then Rude and Aries come out, and then it even gets more hilarious.
Yeah. They kind of bicker back and forth. Daniels clowns on Canadians.
Yeah.
Aries implies that Daniels and Kazarian are gay. Says something about meat. What? I don't even know if I should repeat it. But,
it's pushing the limit.
Then they continue to bicker until Chavo and Hernandez come out, kind of sneak up behind Rude and Aries.
Attack them.
And, toss them out of the ring while Bad Influence bails out. Then we see Matt Morgan backstage talking more about Hogan's mistakes. Then we get the TV title match part 2. What did you think about this one, Ace? Yeah, not much to write about.
It just seemed kind of like forced upon us because it really wasn't supposed to happen. There was really no build up, obviously, and it's just like it was just kind of thrown at us like in the midst of the whole show. And it's just like
and Joe's getting the best of Devon. He gets him up for the Muscle Buster, and then out come Anderson and Bischoff and Briscoe and. Anderson knocks him out with brass knucks while B&B distract the ref.
Yeah.
Devon gets the win. They beat up on Joe some more after the match. Nothing really to discuss there. Then we get Storm versus Styles. Which
I thought this was a good match.
It was a really, really good match. Yeah. Styles, tried to punk out and leave before the match got started, but Storm goes after him. They fight, on the ramp, and eventually it spills back into the ring. Out comes Bad Influence, but they just observe.
Yeah.
Storm goes for the last call. AJ reverses it into a submission. I don't know what he's calling that submission.
It was a pretty badass
submission. I liked it.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was kind of modified.
But, you got to do something different. If you're going to come back with a different character, you got to do something different. You got to do something new, not the same old shit.
And there again, like when Sting came back as the Crow, character, he started using the Scorpion Death Drop.
Yeah.
The reverse DDT.
Yeah.
and I hate to keep making that comparison, but it's like I said,
it's a good comparison.
Yeah. He Storm taps to Styles, it was a good match.
It was a good match.
I like both those guys. I figured it'd be a good match. Then Kazarian and Daniels come in to celebrate with Styles, and he acts like he's with them at first.
And turns on him.
Yeah, but then he turns on both and takes them out, and then Aces and Eights hit the ring and beat down Storm, Kazarian, and Daniels. AJ just leaves. Mm-hmm. Then Bully gets on the mic and talks trash and basically calls out Hogan for next week. That's basically Impact.
I thought it was one of the better Impacts that I've seen.
Yeah, I think they're heading in the right direction. I really do. There again, I wish they get another match or two in there. But, all in all, not a bad Impact.
Yeah.
And next, we got SmackDown from Knoxville, Tennessee. Kick us off there, Ace.
We go with a Del Rio and Ziggler and Swagger recap for the World Heavyweight Championship coming up at Extreme Rules. Then we do an Orton, Sheamus, Big Show, and Henry recap coming up for a tag team title match later on that evening. And then we do Fandango versus Santino Marella, which I have to admit, Santino Marella kind of made me laugh with this promo.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's humorous at times, no doubt about it.
But Fandango, like, trying to serenade Lillian Garcia right before Marella came out. He just drops her. Yeah,
drops her on her ass and tells her dancing is horrible. That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And Fandango is with the new girl still, so I don't know if the original girl's gone now, or maybe he's just going to have a different girl from week to week.
Yeah. Santino, he does a little dancing too when he gets out there.
Yeah, and he, with his Cobra.
Yeah. And the You Can't Wrestle chants are still going.
Yeah, which is obviously not true, but...
snoozer.
Yeah, Fandango pretty much dominates, and he reverses the Cobra into what was a nice finisher. It's like I said there again, I don't know what he's calling that, but...
then we get some more and Booker and
Teddy. More backstage bickering.
Big Show appears to be thanking Teddy.
Yeah.
It's just Then we get a Kofi and Cesaro recap, and it's like
champion versus champion.
Wade Barrett versus Kofi Kingston, champion versus championship match.
It was a decent match. Some good offense by both guys, but was there any really doubt that Kofi was going to win? I mean.
Barrett's
like
out again.
Yeah, Barrett's the next Cesaro. I don't know, and why they're trying to push Kofi again, I don't get. I mean,
so they do this like every 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, remember a couple of years ago he was in the damn Elimination Chamber, leading up to WrestleMania. They had pushed him so far.
Yeah,
and it's just. The guy's just kind of boring. He needs to come up with a new gimmick or something. Like I said, I think maybe turn him heel, but because you can tell the crowd's pretty much indifferent to the guy. They don't hate him, but they don't really love him either.
It's like I could go piss or I could stay and watch.
Nothing really of
substance.
Then we get another recap of Henry, Sheamus. Then Sheamus gets a little revenge on Henry.
Yeah. Big spear.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny.
Yeah. That's what's to say. That's what I do, fella.
Yeah.
I have a terrible Irish accent. Sorry about that. But then more recapping. Del Rio, Ziggler, Swagger build up.
Then we get Del Rio versus Swagger, and I'll tell you what, right now. This match was better than a WrestleMania match.
Yeah, it was. It was a good match. It started a little slow.
Yeah.
It was a little bit slow paced up until the end.
25 minutes?
Yeah, that's one of the things I noted there, that it's one of the longer matches I recall seeing on WWE TV in a while.
A lot of close falls, a lot of near finishes. It was good. There's 3 things that stuck out in my mind when I was watching this match. I mean, as good of a match as it was, why build up a World Heavyweight title match if you keep continuing to alternate the three competitors in the World Heavyweight title match, like, against each other.
Yeah.
It makes it kind of seem like you've seen it before when it gets to the title match.
Yeah.
2, I miss managers. These guys both have managers. You know,
Right.
It's kind of like brings back that, you know, old school feeling of having managers. And 3, it was a really good match. But once again, did it make the difference between this stipulation or that stipulation?
Yeah,
I mean, what did it really? I mean, it was awesome. It was a great match. It was
Yeah.
better than the match at WrestleMania. But what did it mean in the end?
Yeah, I mean, especially since the match is a 3-way.
Yeah.
Del Rio gets the win with a roll up out of the arm breaker. Pretty neat little move there, but yeah, like you said, a really good match. I enjoyed it, but yeah, I don't know. And I guess, I mean, when it comes down to it, especially, you know, growing up as a kid, you know, we didn't get main event quality matches on TV every week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you do on Raw and Impact and SmackDown nowadays. You know, you got to see the stars wrestle jobbers.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess every match doesn't have to have a meaning behind it. It can just be a match. But these two guys are involved in a world title match coming up at the next pay-per-view. So, yeah, I see your point there. We take another look back at, you know, the whole Ryback Cena thing. Then the Shield is backstage mocking Cena. They take some shots at Taker. Then we get a bizarre mixed tag team match. Kali, Natalya actually gets to wrestle. And Hornswoggle versus Primo, Epico, and Rosa.
Which those last 3, they're completely wasting.
Yeah, and all this over a stolen parking spot. That's the reason they were fighting, over a parking spot.
God.
The match was just a mess. Now the couple minutes there with Rosa and Natalya was actually the best part of the match. Natalya, man, she can wrestle.
Oh yeah, but they're wasting her.
Yeah, totally wasting her. But yeah, the match was a mess. Kali gets the pin after the Punjabi plunge, his version of a choke slam. Then we take a look back at CM Punk walking out on Monday Night Raw. You know, he's got a lot of nagging wounds to nurse, and he's just taking a little time off.
And I heard he got in a big altercation, a big verbal conflict with Vince backstage.
Really?
Creative direction, yeah. Maybe that's part of him being mentally burned out. And
Could be.
Just wore out physically and emotionally right now.
Yeah.
But you know, he's, like you said, he's a polarizing individual. So
Yeah.
if it's not his way, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
it's not the right way. But he has performed his fucking ass off the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And he deserves a little bit of time off.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I
He
mean?
deserves a vacation. Then we take a look back at Lesnar destroying 3MB and the rematch challenge to Triple H. Then the main event of the night, Mark Henry and Big Show versus Orton and Sheamus.
This is a hot match.
It was, and I don't know if this crossed your mind, but I found it kind of ironic that Henry and Show tagging up here, 2 of the guys that I mentioned for Heyman's fantasy stable that we were talking about last week. And now all of a sudden they're tag team partners. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah. Crowd was hot.
And you know, Henry and Show actually worked together quite well as a team.
They did, yeah. And Orton and Sheamus worked well, and it's like you don't even think about it, but they do work very well together.
And they've been working together for a while now. But Mark Henry and Big Show were pretty dominant for a while there. Sheamus finally gets the hot tag to Orton. Orton does a little bit of damage, but Show catches Orton with a choke slam. Show and Henry get the win here. I was kind of surprised.
Match.
Yeah, good match.
Overall, a decent SmackDown, I thought.
And it was a nice surprise. I was shocked to see Orton get pinned clean. So I enjoyed that aspect of it.
I'm sure you did.
And now we're on to Monday Night Raw from London, England. We take a look back at the whole Taker's Shield thing, then the whole Cena Ryback thing. Then Heyman is in the ring to start the show off. He's hyping Lesnar. Then we get another highlight reel of Lesnar beating the crap out of 3MB. Then the challenge to Triple H. It's time for Triple H to respond, but Heyman says Triple H isn't there tonight. Heyman has a text on his phone that's supposedly from Triple H saying he can't be there. He'll be there next week. Heyman basically starts calling Triple H a coward and everything. But then Triple H music hits and out comes the game. Triple H comes to the ring and he points to Heyman's phone, says, "See that text there?" He said, "I lied." He basically tells Heyman to tell Lesnar he accepts, and then gives Heyman a pedigree.
I thought it was a pretty good opening segment.
Yeah,
for the show.
It was entertaining.
I guess because I'm going to be there live next month, it's not much more exciting. But
I think it's a pretty good way to kick it off. Like a lot better than Cena or The Rock coming out and talking for 20 minutes
about absolutely fucking nothing. Yeah. Then tell us what happens next.
We get R-Truth, which I like R-Truth, nothing against R-Truth, versus Cesaro. And, of course, Cesaro comes out acting like a clown, yodeling. And he can't even yodel good. I guess that's supposed to be part of the joke. I guess he must have pissed somebody off in the office or something, because they've just done nothing but job him out and make him look like a clown. Pretty quick match. And, of course, even in Europe, Cesaro does the job to R-Truth. R-Truth gets the win. It
just makes me want to throw up.
Yeah.
I even threw up in my mouth a little bit watching it.
Just horrible the way they're using Cesaro and the way they're using Wade Barrett.
Do you think Vince is just like laughing? He's just laughing backstage.
Oh, yeah, he's loving it.
Look what I can do to these guys.
Yeah.
They're really talented.
Yeah, he loves it. And, of course, at least Cesaro was on the show, though. Wade Barrett's not even on Raw.
Yeah. You're Intercontinental Champion, not even on Raw. In London, England, his home country.
Yeah. Yeah. How messed up is that?
And that's not even dogging R-Truth in the least.
Not at all. But, I mean, Barrett should have been on the show, and Barrett should have had a title defense, and he should have squashed his opponent to appease the hometown crowd.
And this crowd was out of control again.
A hot crowd, man. Europeans are crazy, man. They love their wrestling. Then we see the Shield arriving by helicopter.
What did you think of that? Kind of been done before.
Yeah. Remember when Sting dropped down from the helicopter when they were outdoors?
Yeah. But yet again, the Shield, what are they doing with them? Because, I mean, they're just kind of like running in circles.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in that match later. But
I remember Ric Flair arriving in a helicopter one time, too, for a title defense against Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express in a cage. Yeah. I believe that was a Starrcade match. Starrcade 2 or 3, if I remember correctly. Anyhow, we get Brodus Clay against Damian Sandow.
Oh my God.
Nothing really noteworthy here.
But Brodus Clay's in a movie. Don't forget.
Yeah.
He's in a movie.
Yeah. Got to plug his movie there. I don't know the name of it, but Sandow gets the win with a slight assist from Cody. They said nothing really to talk about there.
They're just flushing them now, the total.
Yeah. Then we get a recap of Ziggler cashing in to win the title. Some hype for the 3-way at Extreme Rules. Then, Ziggler backstage talking to his belt.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and then AJ comes up and they're all mushy with each other. And then you see Big E standing there and he just looks disgusted and walks away. Then Vicky and Brad Maddox walk up and tell Ziggler if he loses tonight, Extreme Rules will be a fatal 4-way. Which, I thought was a dead giveaway. I'm like, well, why don't they just give you the result? Now Ziggler's going to lose and Jericho's going to be in it for a 4-way.
Well, yeah, why not? He's been jobbing out fucking since he got the title.
Yeah. So then we take a look back at Punk walking out again from last week. The Shield is backstage talking smack about Taker again.
Always a good promo from the Shield.
Yeah, especially Ambrose.
Ambrose is he's the man on the mic.
Yeah, he's really impressive talker and good in the ring too. All three of those guys. Yeah. Then we get Ziggler versus Jericho. Not bad, but to me, these two guys could do so much better.
Yeah, and I had that feeling when I was watching this match. It seemed like there was some kind of like miscommunication between the two of them. You know what I mean? It's just like it just seemed like they weren't in rhythm. They weren't in sync. But they at the end of the match they got it going. But it seemed like they're in the first 10, 15 minutes. It's just like it's kind of off a little bit.
Yeah,
I think it was a good match. Don't get me wrong.
Like I said, it wasn't bad, but like I said, these two together could do so much better.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of 2 counts, and I say 2 counts for a reason. There's a difference between a 2 count and a near fall.
Yeah.
A near fall is when you're not sure if you're thinking it's over.
Yeah.
But then the dude kicks out. Yeah. Anybody can go out there and put together a match with 22 counts in it, man. Yeah. It doesn't mean anything if it's not done right. And kind of like you were saying, they seemed out of sync, and they had a bunch of 2 counts, not a bunch of near falls.
Yeah. And Jericho had him beat like he does every opponent since he's came back.
Yeah, he looks
a few months ago. And then Fandango's music hits.
Yeah, he looks poised to win. He gets Ziggler in the Lion Tamer. They call it the Walls. It's not. The Walls is a Boston Crab.
Yeah.
The Lion Tamer is totally different. Fandango's music hits. It distracts Jericho, and Ziggler hits the zigzag, gets the win. Which I have no problem with that. I like Ziggler, and he's the champ. He should win. He shouldn't be jobbing out all the time. All in all, I thought those two could have done better.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man. Jericho's got his opponent in a submission hold, and that's one thing about wrestling that kills me. Jericho is smarter than that. Just because Fandango's music is playing and he might be coming out at the top of the ring, Jericho's smarter than to just let his opponent get out of the hole.
Yeah. Honestly and truly, against some guy like Fandango.
Like Jericho's scared of Fandango or something.
Yeah. This is the guy that beat Austin and Rock in the same night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, it was okay though. Then we get another look back at Cena Ryback.
Which I'm digging this feud.
Well, I'll dig it.
Because I got that feeling.
If Ryback just crushes Cena.
I'm telling you, this is it. He's going to do it this time. They're not going to let him lose again. His 7th straight pay-per-view loss.
Yeah, but you're talking about Cena here, man. Talking about Superman.
I don't know. I guess it's just wishful thinking that Cena's days are done.
I mean, how many monsters has Cena faced and taken down?
But if Ryback loses this match, then just leave WWE, be done.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it'll be impossible to buy him as a monster anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost is already.
I mean, the crowd's as behind him as they're going to get.
Yeah.
At this point. So.
Yeah, because and the thing is, I find it interesting how the WWE is so clueless that they're trying to turn Ryback heel by having him turn heel against Cena. That's not the guy you want to try and turn a guy heel against, because at least 50% of the fans hate Cena. Yeah. So they're just going to cheer for Ryback that much more. I like Ryback now more than ever because he's against Cena. Yeah, I mean, that just shows how clueless they are.
It's like I said in our other show, no matter who Cena's facing, whoever it is, we're going to be double for them.
Yeah.
And Ryback, he's been cutting some pretty damn solid promos.
Yeah, I mean,
I think personally.
Yeah, I mean, he's no Ric Flair on the mic, but he's improved a lot.
As long as it's believable.
Yeah,
it has to be believable, and it's believable.
Yeah,
he's pissed about it.
Absolutely, and for good reason. Cena's a little worm.
And a bitch.
Yeah. Josh Matthews backstage with Foley, plugging Foley's DVD.
What about this? Do you get tired of Foley?
Absolutely, I do. And I hate to say that. I mean, I really don't have anything against Foley, and I think he deserves respect, and I do respect him. I think he deserves to be a Hall of Famer. I said it before. I just think Foley just is a tad overrated. He was a bit of a one-trick pony. Yeah, he took a hell of a bump. He knew how to take a lot of abuse, and he paid his dues. But I mean,
he never was the show stealer though.
No, and he wasn't.
He always got the show stolen on. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. But it's like, how many books and things about Foley am I supposed to get excited about?
Yeah.
Of course, I know you said you've seen the DVD and it's pretty good. And
It is a good DVD.
I plan on checking it out. I'm sure it's interesting. It's probably nothing I don't already know.
Yeah.
Not that I know everything, but I know quite a bit about Foley because I watched him coming up, and I read Have a Nice Day, which, by the way, is a good book. I recommend it if you haven't read it. Like I said, I don't want to come across like I'm knocking Foley. I just don't put him up there in the upper echelon, like with guys with flair and heart.
Michaels.
Yeah, even Michaels.
Foley was kind of guy, in an essence, was kind of like the glorified jobber.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
but the guy is a 3-time WWE champion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was a glorified jobber up until a point, and then they just kind of gave him that kind of iconic status. Then we got Cody Rhodes versus Sweet Tea, so the other halves of those teams facing each other.
Which was better than that garbage earlier.
Yeah, it was better than the first match. It was actually a pretty physical match.
But see, Tensai, he's another one. He can wrestle.
Yeah, especially for a big guy. He's not bad.
He's agile. He's fairly quick. He's strong.
But, this is one thing I got to say. Yeah, they've got him being a goofball, but, they tried making him a monster, and it didn't go over.
Didn't work, yeah.
Because, fans, at least the older fans, remember, hey, he was A-Train. He was Albert. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't buy him as this, Japanese trained monster.
Did you notice JBL Lowtown was like, well, he's a legend in Japan, but it just really hadn't worked here in the USA. And
right.
Come on.
Which there may be a grain of truth in that.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes guys don't get over in the States and they have huge careers overseas. Like Stan Hansen. Of course, he was pretty popular in the States, but much, much bigger over in Japan than he ever was here.
Wasn't he an AWA World Heavyweight Champion?
AWA.
I'm sorry, AWA.
Yeah, beat Rick Martel for the title by submission, which at that time was unheard of for a babyface champion to submit. And a legendary story there, Hansen left AWA as the champion. He was still the champion and went overseas with the belt. And they basically tracked him down and told him, hey, we want the belt back. So he ran it over with his vehicle and sent it back to him. Stan Hansen's a legit tough guy.
Yeah.
Stan Hansen, Terry Gordy was huge over in Japan. And now current guys like Davey Boy Smith Jr. is what they call him over there. But
David Hart Smith?
Yeah, Harry Smith.
Is he over there now?
He's over in Japan, wrestling for New Japan.
There's another guy that just wasted completely in WWE.
Yeah. A lot of guys get a second life over there in Japan. Or sometimes they go over there and kind of hone their skills and come back a better wrestler.
Yeah.
Guys like, Jericho and Eddie Guerrero spent time in Japan and came back. And
Benoit.
Yeah. But anyhow, Cody Rhodes versus Sweet Tea. Like I said, it's a pretty physical match. Sweet Tea gets the win here. They said nothing to scream about, but okay. Then we get Kane and Daniel Bryan backstage bickering like children, as they always do. Get attacked by the Shield. What'd you think about that segment there?
I mean, I don't know. It's just, it really had nothing behind it.
Yeah, it was just filler.
Now, what did you think about Kane and Daniel Bryan and The Undertaker versus The Shield in the 6-man tag match? It was an okay match, but once again, it meant nothing because it didn't set up anything.
Maybe so, maybe not.
It seemed like it was just trying to like appease the London crowd. Put the Undertaker in a match.
But I was impressed with, Daniels, or Bryan Danielson as usual, or Daniel Bryan.
Oh, he was all over the place, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Even the Shield, they shined a whole lot in this match.
The Shield looked good. But getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there. First, we got to look back at Orton Sheamus versus Henry Big Show from SmackDown. Josh Matthews backstage with Ryback.
Ryder, a spot on TV.
Well, Ryder's up next. He gets squashed by Big E Langston.
Hey, I like Big E Langston as a singles competitor.
He's got that finishing move. He's calling the Big Ending. It was a squash match. Then we get Hell No Taker versus The Shield.
I got ahead of myself on that match.
And at first, it looks like Taker's going to be on his own.
Yeah.
Because, they had gotten jumped earlier in the night. But the Shield gangs up on Taker, and then out comes Hell No. So then, we get some pretty good action here. Like I said, Daniel Bryan, impressive as always. The Shield looked good as well. And it was cool just to see the Taker wrestle, and they kept saying for the first time in 3 years on Raw.
Yeah.
The Shield gets the win after Daniel Bryan.
Which I think was crucial.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're going to keep going.
Yeah, they got to keep their momentum going here. And it doesn't hurt, even though they're the tag champs, and I gripe about them jobbing champs out. It doesn't really hurt.
Because this was kind of a free-for-all
right.
match anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't really hurt Team Hell No to take a fall here. Bryan misses with a flying headbutt, allowing the Shield to get the pin.
I thought the match was going to go on even further than that. After this headbutt, but it didn't. But it was still okay.
Yeah,
match.
it was okay. Then we see Foley backstage with Cena. Cena trying to talk Foley out of going out and confronting Ryback. Then Fandango is out with yet another dancing girl, this time, a blonde.
She was pretty hot.
Way too skinny for my taste. She looked like a sick Barbie doll.
Hey. Jericho snatched her up.
Yeah.
Did a little number with it. Didn't he?
Yeah, we get a Fandango against Lord William Regal, which I like Regal. I haven't seen Regal in a while.
They couldn't get his name right for shit. They called him William Regal, Steven Regal.
Well, he was Steven Regal in WCW.
And then he was the real man's man when he came
the man's man, wearing a flannel shirt and stuff.
And jean shorts.
Yeah, which, why they tried to rope him with that image, I don't know. But, I've always liked Regal. One of the toughest guys in wrestling at one point. And, a good mat wrestler. He can brawl, like some of those matches he had with Fit Finlay were classics. I remember when they were still in WCW, they had a parking lot brawl.
Yeah.
Cool match. But there again, like I said, he could also wrestle, but he could brawl with the best of them. Match didn't last very long. Fandango gets a quick victory here. Then Jericho jumps him at the top of the ramp as he's leaving, and that's where he steals the dancing girl and gives her a little dip. Then we got a Divas Battle Royal, and at this point...
Tamina Snuka just dog kicked the shit out of AJ. Did you see that?
Yeah, she got her pretty good. But it was funny because at this point, my wife had just gotten home and she had sat down on the couch and was kind of watching it with me a little bit. She's a casual fan. She likes Ring of Honor a lot better than she does WWE. Smart lady.
She made a derogatory comment to me against Orton the other day at my workplace, which I didn't think it was that damn funny.
That's my girl. But anyhow, they say they're going to have a Divas Battle Royal, and I look at Tanya and I say, do they even have enough Divas to have a Battle Royal? Yeah. And only 5 participants here. Battle Royal, 5 participants. Pretty lame, pretty predictable. I mean, was there really any doubt AJ was going to get the win here? They've been building her up against Caitlyn, for a few weeks already. So, it was kind of obvious that AJ was going to win. Then we get Foley comes out with chair in hand to face Ryback. And even in Europe, there's still dumbasses chanting, "What? What?" after everything Foley says. Just stop it, people. Stop it. I mean, Okay, then Ryback comes out. Foley talks about being a hardcore legend and a Hall of Famer. Kind of tooting his own horn there a little bit. But he does say his time has passed, which, a lot of guys don't know when their time has passed.
Yeah.
He asked Ryback to watch some footage. It's just the Shield attacking Cena from last week when Ryback walked away. And Ryback says he loved it. Foley asks Ryback what happened to him. Ryback tells Foley to be careful what he asked for. Foley tells Ryback it's Ryback's destiny to be champion. I found that kind of interesting. Tells Ryback to wake up, though. Ryback tells Foley to shut up. And he refers to Cena as Super Cena a couple times. I found that kind of humorous. But then, Ryback, he calls the fans stupid. He calls Foley a fat, pathetic, lazy bastard.
I thought it was pretty hilarious.
Ryback takes the chair from Foley, throws it out of the ring, and then out comes Cena. And you hear the boos. And then, before anything can transpire, the Shield music hits. And Cena leaves as they surround the ring. They attack Ryback. But then Cena, being Mr. Dudley Do-Right, comes in with a chair and saves Ryback. But then gives him the FU. I'm sorry, the attitude adjustment it is now. But then, Cena stands at the top of the ring doing his stupid taunting crap. And Raw goes off the air.
I thought Impact and SmackDown were actually both better than Raw this week.
Yeah, and I DVR Raw because I just can't sit through the 3 hours of crud. I watch Raw in an hour and a half. Fast forwarding through the commercials and all of the recaps that I've already seen 3 times, and it takes some of these guys 5 minutes to make their ring entrance. And seriously, a 3-hour show and there's a half hour of substance. Mm-hmm. An hour and a half of substance. Excuse me.
No Intercontinental Champion and no Justin Gabriel, who just won the number one contendership for the Intercontinental Championship on main event last week.
And it wouldn't be as big of a deal that the Intercontinental Champion was left off the show if it weren't for the fact that
it's in his fucking home country.
He's from England. Just ridiculous. And now, real quick, because we're running out of time, I want to do the This Week in Wrestling History segment. And just so happens that 50 years ago this week, the very first WWF champion was crowned, which obviously became the WWF, then the WWE. But Buddy Rogers, the very first WWF champion, and it's noteworthy not just because it's the 50th birthday of the title. It's noteworthy because Buddy Rogers was the first guy to hold it, and he only held it for about a month. But Buddy Rogers is the first guy ever to hold the NWA World Title and then the WWF World Title. And he won it in a supposed tournament down in Rio de Janeiro, which was also the way Pat Patterson won the first Intercontinental title a few years later. But it's kind of like up in the air, I think, whether that tournament ever actually really happened or if they just put the belt on him. But, Buddy Rogers had been the NWA World Champion, and he was the original Nature Boy. Mm-hmm. And really, anybody after him who was the bleach blonde, flamboyant, whether they carried the name Nature Boy like, Ric Flair or Buddy Landell did, just that whole image was created by Buddy Rogers. And, he was kind of one of the first guys who was considered like the total package. He had the look, the charisma, he could talk, and he could wrestle. And he's also the creator of the Figure 4 leg lock. And just, a huge legend in the business. And like I said, anybody after him who had that kind of gimmick really owes a lot to the Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. And of course, he held it for about a month and then lost it to Bruno. But you look at the early history of that belt, and up until Hogan, well, even through Hogan, there'd only been a handful of guys to win that belt. You had Rogers, then San Martino held it forever. Ivan Koloff beat San Martino for it, but didn't hold it very long. San Martino won it back eventually, not from Ivan, but there was only a handful of guys, because when Hogan won the title from the Iron Sheik, and the Iron Sheik had only held the title for roughly a month as well. As a matter of fact, the Iron Sheik had the shortest title reign up to that point. And he had held it for a solid month, I think. And after that, you had guys holding the belt for 24 hours. And of course, as we all know, Hogan held the belt for 4 years straight. But when Hogan won his first title, that particular physical belt had the side plates with all the previous champions listed on those side plates of the belt. So that's how few guys had held the belt up to that point, that they could fit them all on one belt. But that's this week's history lesson. And don't forget, we have an email address set up. We'd love to hear from you guys if you have any ideas for topics of discussion, any feedback, criticism, anything. We'd love to hear from you guys. The address is tpwshow@gmx.com. We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line. That about does it. And we may be giving away one of these stylish TPW t-shirts here in the next couple weeks. We're thinking about holding a contest. So stay tuned, and we'll let you know more on that. But we're out of time here, so we got to go. I'm Mr. Electricity, Eric Davidson, and this is my partner, Ace Larson. We'll see you next time.